Yesterday we talked about the addition property of equality, and now we're going on to the multiplication property of equality. It's the same thing though, except involving multiplication. It says if A equals B, so if we have an equation, okay, it's the property of equality, so if we have an equation and A equals B, then we can multiply by the same thing on both sides without changing whether the equation is true or false. Okay, so if we have an equation that is true, we multiply by C on both sides, the equation is still true. Okay, so this is also going to help us solve equations. Remember I said that we have one extra step. Yesterday we had simplify and use the addition property of equality. Now we're going to have simplify, use the addition property of equality, and then use the multiplication property of equality we just learned. Okay, so if you can remember the acronym SAM, SAM, then that will help you remember the order to solve equations. Alright, let's see how this property works. If we have 3 times r equals 12, then we can multiply on both sides by the same thing in order to hopefully end up with just r equals something. Okay, that's our goal, r equals something. What can we multiply by? What's the reciprocal or the multiplicative inverse of 3? Okay, the reciprocal is 1/3. So if we multiply both sides by 1/3, what happens to this side? This cancels out, right? Here, let me do it in a different color. So we had this to begin with. If we multiply by the reciprocal, this is like over 1, so this will cancel, and all we will have left is r over 1, which is just r. Okay, which is what we wanted, that's our goal. But we can't just multiply on one side, we have to multiply on both sides, so we're going to multiply on this side by 1/3 as well. Okay, so if we multiply by 1/3, then this reduces to 4, so we have 4 over 1, which is just 4. Okay, another way that we could have thought about this, let's come over here and jot it down. Another way that we could have thought about this, which is really the exact same way, is instead of multiplying by 1/3, multiplying by 1/3 is the same as dividing by 3. So we could have divided both sides by 3 and gotten 12 over 3 reduces to 4 over 1, which is just 4. So the same answer because it really is the same thing. Multiplying by the reciprocal is the same thing as dividing. All right. Let's look at this other one, and we're going to do this one using division, which is the same thing. It falls under the same property. Okay, so what happens if we have 10 times z equals -45? The opposite of 10 times a number is dividing or multiplying by the reciprocal. So if we divide by 10 on both sides, the 10s will cancel. We'll get z equals -45 over 10 can be reduced to -9 halves. All right. Let's go on to the next one. Okay, what about this? We have p over 4 equals -6. Right here, we're dividing by 4. P over 4. What's the opposite of dividing? Multiplying. So we're going to multiply by 4 on both sides. If we multiply by 4 here, the 4s will cancel out, and we will just have p, which is our goal. We want p by itself, and then -6 times 4 is -24. Okay, what if we have it like this? 3/5 times k equals -21. Then what? What do we want to multiply by? Right, the reciprocal. Okay, it's still going to be the reciprocal because we're hoping to get rid of this fraction. So if we multiply by the reciprocal on both sides, okay, what happens here is that the 3's and the 5's cancel out and we just have k, which was our goal. And here this can reduce, and -7 times 5 is -35. All right, great. Let's look at this one. 4r minus 9r equals 20. Okay. Remember our steps. So far we've been doing problems that have already been simplified for us. But in this case, this side is not simplified. So we need to go ahead and simplify it, okay, by adding like terms. Negative 5r equals 20. Okay. And then we're going to use the addition step if we need it. We don't. And then go on to the multiplication step, which tells us we can divide by negative 5 on both sides and cancel out the 5s that way. Okay, so if we cancel out negative 5 on both sides, we get 20 divided by negative 5, which is negative 4.